Standing above the school playing fields and set apart from other buildings on campus, Bromsgrove School Memorial Chapel is an imposing building which tells a powerful story of loss and remembrance. The Memorial Chapel was hallowed and partially completed in May 1931, but only finally finished in 1960. It was built to commemorate the 93 former pupils and staff who lost their lives in the First World War, but also became a memorial to those who lost their lives in the Second World War. It was paid for by subscriptions from both school and local community, and money was raised for it over a number of years from the 1920s, following the end of World War I. The architect for the Memorial Chapel was the well-renowned Giles Gilbert Scott, architect of many prominent buildings in the UK, including Liverpool Cathedral, Cambridge University Library, Waterloo Bridge and Bankside Power Station, now Tate Modern in London. The plans and photographs of the construction of the chapel, along with the original beautiful hand-coloured architect's drawings, are in the school archive. Braziers of Bromsgrove, who had built all major school buildings since the 1880s, built and completed the chapel. The foundation stone on the path side was laid on March 2, 1930 by Mrs Spreckley, mother of 3 Old Bromsgrovians who died in World War I. The Bromsgrovian School magazine from April 1930 records, "After the prayers had concluded, the congregation moved in a long procession to the scene of the stone laying, where a large marquee had been erected, singing meanwhile the fine hymn by J.S. Arkwright, O valiant hearts who to your glory came. The clergy, the headmaster, Lord Cobham, Mr. and Mrs Spreckley and the head monitor stood beside the stone. It was an impressive moment when the school had assembled and the whole volume of their singing filled the marquee. The chairman of the governors, Lord Cobham, then asked Mrs Spreckley to lay the stone on behalf of all the mothers of the fallen. When her son Arthur died on board a ship which was sunk, returning home on leave with his wife and child, Mrs Spreckley also lost a grandchild. We have the commemorative trowel in the archive with which she laid the foundation stone. It is inscribed with the initials of Arthur, Guy and Routh, the 3 sons Mrs Spreckley lost in the war. The Memorial Chapel was officially opened by R.G. Routh, the headmaster, who had taken the school through the First World War. The east window of the chapel was donated in his honour by Old Bromsgrovians. Headmaster Routh gave the sermon at the final completion of the chapel in 1960, aged 91 years, which was reproduced in the Bromsgrovian. Some of us here fought in neither war, others fought in both and returned to civilian life, and some who went out from the school and did not return. It is of them we think today. Only when as a daily habit you come into this chapel with your wandering thoughts and with your outside interests, never forget, never I charge you, forget that you are treading on hallowed ground, for this place enshrines the memory of those who gave their lives so that you are sitting here in safety today." He was heard in awed silence. The inside of the Memorial Chapel has been compared to a medieval tithe barn, very open and plain, long with no nave side aisles. It seats 500 and in its initial build had chairs rather than pews. The austere design is in keeping with its primary function as a war memorial. Apart from the memorial tablets which commemorate all Old Bromsgrovians who lost their lives in the World Wars, many are commemorated in the Memorial Chapel by family dedications of pews and windows. L.W. Sweet Escott, who visited the school 2 weeks before he died, has a stained glass commemorative window with the school motto Deo Regina Vicino, for God, King and Neighbour, in the porch area. It was in the old chapel first where Sweet Escott wrote a poem entitled An Old Boy to His School, about school and his experiences in war, which was reproduced in the Bromsgrovian in 1916 after he died. Robert Pancheri found his brother Paul in hospital after surviving work as a POW on the infamous Burma Railway in World War II. Robert, a sculptor and woodcarver of prodigious skill, had a most cherished and moving memory of the commission to carve the stone memorial tablets in the Memorial Chapel. Headmaster David Walters gave him the list of names. He remembered, "I had known almost every one of these boys. Most of them had been in my form at one time or another. Some of them I had known very well, and one had been my next-door neighbour when I was a little boy. No one had ever told me they had been killed. The sight of their names now rooted me to the ground, and the thought of carving their names filled me with a kind of shame. Sometimes, as I carved their names, I could remember them as they were, their looks, the sound of their voices, and the kind of things they said. Edward Wilson was one of 4 Wilson brothers who attended Bromsgrove School. A pew in the memorial chapel is inscribed with their names. John Rupert Wilson fought with the Royal Sussex Regiment, as did his brother Gerald. J.R. Wilson was wounded at Thiepval and later took his own life in 1932, following war-related depression. His name was added to the memorial tablets in 2018 as part of the school's World War I centenary commemorations. When the memorial chapel was commissioned and completed, it not only functioned as a memorial to the Bromsgrovians who had died in the World Wars, but as a place of worship for the school community, which had long outgrown the old chapel, which could only comfortably accommodate 100 people. Today, the memorial chapel is used for services for the school each week, and for annual services of Remembrance, Mothering Sunday, and carol services for prep and senior school. It remains a striking and memorable building on Bromsgrove School campus.